Hello, and welcome to my presentation for COMM 2200 at Ohio University Virtual Reality Production. This presentation is on disabilities, accessibility, and VR. Now, there are many kinds of disabilities that can affect VR. Some of them are visual, some of them are audio, some of them are motor skill disabilities, some of them just are disabilities brought on by age, some of them are cognitive disabilities, but right now we're going to focus on the most common disabilities that can interfere with a VR experience. So the first disability that we're going to focus on is a visual disability. So someone with cataracts, someone with just poor vision in general, they need to wear glasses, they can't wear them in the headset, or just having plain vision damage. When you have bad vision, what enables you to see is contrast. So contrast in color. And there are several requirements for ADA compliability for color. And these are brought up in the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG guidelines, in great detail. They actually require a 4.5 to 1 ratio between any color on any 2 points on the screen in terms of color. Excuse me. So in front of us we have 4 blocks, brown, red, white, and blue. And we have a gray and blue background behind them, and a white floor. So right away, the most clear problem is the white cube, because the white cube, you can't tell where the white cube ends and where the floor begins if you have poor vision. And there are a few ways to test for this. So one way is to squint your eyes and blur your vision to simulate having a vision impairment. And if you can still make out the contrast between 2 items on the screen, then those 2 items are fine. Another method that is used by directors is they take a pane of glass or a small lens that's polarized, and it can be red, blue, or green, and they hold it up and they see how well they can see the object. They can see how well they can see the object in their scene. And this can apply to VR scenes, this can apply to any stage set, and it's just a really handy tool in general to make sure that your contrast is working properly. And lastly, the last way to check is to turn your computer into grayscale. And by doing that, you remove color out of the equation completely, so that 2 colors that might have different hues but have the same value will be highlighted. They'll just, when you turn on the grayscale, they'll just muddle together into one color, and that's not what you want. That's how you, having difference in value and difference in color allows you to create focus in your image. And this technique is actually very commonly used in the art community, and it's to apply a filter to make your entire thing grayscale. Lastly, in order to have a contrast, you don't necessarily need to have vibrant colors or really dark colors. You can have a range of colors as long as they are different from the colors around them. Next is motion impairments. So people with motor skill problems, they can't move very far from their hands very far from their chest or wherever they are in their body, or say someone like who has Parkinson's, who's shaking all the time or has tremors, and they can't use fine motor skills to grab things. So, like not having reach or not having the motor skills required. So, there are a couple ways to work around this. I was not able to code them today because of some technical difficulties. But two of these ways are to use a remote grabber to simulate a real-life grabber or set of straps to remotely grab objects and pull them towards you, so that someone with a range of motion disability can still function in a VR game or VR scenario. And the other option is to create a smoothness setting or a sensitivity setting in your VR controllers. So you can technically code so that a large motion becomes a smaller motion, or a smaller motion becomes a larger motion. And you can have that centered around the headset. I just tapped the headset. You guys can't see that, sorry. You can make large motions into smaller ones or smaller ones into larger ones, and that will enable someone with a small range of motion to have a much larger range of motion in the game to reach out and grab things with their fine motor skills, or someone who has tremors that is moving around constantly. It'll shrink the effect of those tremors so that it'll be much smaller and they can grab the object. And lastly, I'm going to talk about audio disabilities, but for that I need to bring up a different scene, so there will be a blip in the recording. So lastly, we're going to talk about audio disabilities. So someone with an auditory disability may have muffled or completely gone hearing. And as a result, they won't be able to partake in VR to the same extent as other people who have functioning hearing or no hearing damage, because they won't be able to take part in ambisonic audio or binaural audio, which is very commonly used in VR. But what I have right here is a circle that is the player, a line, and this cube, which should be playing audio. If it's not, I'm sorry, there's only so much I can do. But as you move the cube, the line moves with it. So what that means is you can create a rotating line to point towards sounds in your scene as kind of like a dynamic set of subtitles. So in the bottom left corner or bottom right corner or wherever, you can have multiple arrows pointing in different directions and the name of the sound next to it. And someone who is deaf will be able to look in that corner and see and read the sounds that they are missing and they see that there's someone coming up behind them, they can look around and see what's coming up behind them. And this is very similar to techniques that are used for actual pointing for blind people, so not blind people, deaf people, so that someone can point to get their attention towards something, and or some kind of gesture, and from there they can then look around and see for themselves what's going on. Now, one more thing, whenever you are developing for someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, they won't be able to hear cues moving up behind them as quickly as someone who can hear normally. So what you need to do is you need to include flashing lights or quick motions in their peripheral or vision, or of an indicator for them to look behind them. Some indicator to move their attention without sound, because they cannot rely on sound. And that is it for my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them on the blackboard under Chip's discussion board. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.